the makeup of the squad was quite interesting. It's always a focus of who gets left out rather than maybe who's in. But I mean, obviously Phil Salt was it difficult to leave Phil Salt out despite his 58 ball 100 and Sam Hain averaging, I think, very close to 60. How difficult was it to leave guys with those credentials out?
Yeah, I think selection was particularly difficult. I think over particularly the last 4 and a bit years, we've always had tough decisions to make. And I think everybody was left out. It was a tough call. I think the standard that has been produced, skill level, since guys have come together has been exceptional. It's been way above the standard that I expected, given the time that we had off. But certainly those 2 guys you mentioned were unlucky to miss out along with others. I think we're blessed at the moment with a high caliber group of top order batters, not only in the first 11, our best team, but also sitting in the wings, and even guys that will play this series. The guys that are left out probably need some injuries there, call-ups. So I think it's a product of having a consistently strong team over the last period of time. It's allowed players to spend more time at county cricket. So your highly talented players aren't playing a handful of county games and then automatically being called up to the national team. They spend longer than they normally would, fine-tuning their skills and gaining that valuable experience. So by the time that they get called up, they actually know their games a lot better than, I suppose, a lot of the guys I played with. And for me personally as well, I didn't play a lot of county cricket or have years and years of experience. So I think it's a huge positive, even though it's bad news for the guys that have missed out.
And guys on the fringe, guys who have been on the fringes for a few years, like Sam, James, Liam, Tom, a couple that haven't maybe done as well as would have liked in the past. I think James said, obviously, being in and out of the side hasn't maybe that helpful. But is this a chance for maybe to get an extended run of games and certainly prove what they can do?
Yeah, I think it will be. I think probably those 2 guys in particular have been around the group a lot more than others, but haven't had an extended run. So I think a lot of the perception is that they've almost had their chance and their time is gone, whereas we see it as, going into the next World Cup, we need experienced guys that make good decisions under pressure. That's exactly what we're after. And experience lends itself to that. So we'll continue to give opportunities, whether it's to those 2 or it's to other guys that we feel might have an impact in selection from the next 2 T20 World Cups or the 50 over World Cup.
Thanks. Cheers, Henry.
Thanks. Bernard, please.
Okay. Hi, Owen. Just a quick question. I put a similar question yesterday to David, to Andrew, I should say, just about your preparation. I know you had the Lions game last Sunday, but prior to that, I know we're in extraordinary circumstances. Your preparation, you were obviously not really preparing as a team, as in a conventional sense. You were preparing as individuals because of the restrictions. How did that go, and did you have any difficulties with that?
We had no difficulties. We actually found it to be a lot more productive than training as a group. So moving forward, it actually might change the shape of our training. I know at Middlesex, before I came into the bubble, we found the exact same thing. Although it being very time consuming for all the coaches and all the staff, facilitating players on an individual basis was extremely productive. So it's going to be something that we will look at in more depth when we come to our review of this period. But I know guys have enjoyed it. So when we've come together as a team, it's obviously been a bit more emphasised on doing things as a collective.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bernard. Mike, please. Mike Waters.
Owen, good afternoon. I know you would never treat a one-day international series as a lap of honour, but it's a bit sad, isn't it? And there's nothing you can do about it, but it's a bit sad that here you are playing the first home series since you won the World Cup and fans aren't going to be allowed in to watch it.
I think given the context of everything that's gone on over the last 5 months or so, we are extremely happy to be playing I think things are moving quite quickly outside of the bubble. I know Middlesex and Surrey over the weekend did have spectators and things like that. So potentially down the line that might progress. But I think given the context of and the serious nature of the virus, we're just delighted both to be back playing, but also to have cricket back on TV. I think there's a huge and sort of monumental effort gone into everything to make it happen. So we're extremely grateful for that, and also grateful for Ireland coming over.
Can I just ask you, 2015, the World Cup obviously wasn't a huge success, but the seeds were sown for your success last year in the series almost immediately following that, weren't they? You made a statement in the series against Australia and against when you went to play Pakistan in the UAE. You actually hit the ground running in the 4-year cycle, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I think this series probably is similar in the fact that we're on the start of a new journey with new players and trying to implement very similar plans, but trying to foresee what T20 cricket might look like next year, or 50 over cricket might look in 3 years' time is extremely difficult. So our main focus has been to get the best out of all of the players that have come in, and hopefully create opportunities for those guys, which will hopefully lead to us getting stronger as a team.
Thank you.
Ollie, thought, please.
Hi, Owen. Tomorrow kicks off the new ICC Super League. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's obviously the start of the new qualification period for the next World Cup. I think always at the start, I'm quite reluctant to make a judgment until we actually see what that is like and experience what that is like. I think giving opportunities to play more series on a shorter basis is a good thing. I think for a long time now, I've talked about having tri-series on shorter basis because it's trying to replicate an ICC tournament. You know, you go into must-win games and there's a final stage or top of a group and then a final stage, as opposed to just purely bilateral series. But we'll see how these next few series we play go, and I think I'll have probably form a more constructive or objective opinion by then, as opposed to jumping to that.
And Andrew said earlier on that if they qualified automatically, if Ireland qualified automatically, it would be the biggest achievement that the team has ever had. How well do you think they could fare?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a long process, and over a long period of time, you need to play really good cricket and consistent cricket. I think having watched Ireland play at the beginning of the year against the West Indies, you know, they posed a lot of questions, and actually the result of the series probably didn't reflect the full performance of both sides throughout that series. So given how the West Indies went in the 50 over World Cup, I think that they have huge potential.
Do you think there could be a few upsets on the cards?
There always are. I mean, that's why we play sport. If everybody just knew the result the whole time, we wouldn't watch it, we wouldn't play it, it wouldn't be as popular. So it's sport is never as sure as people think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ollie. Sam Ellard now, and then Tim.
Hey, Owen, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. Owen, your preparation for the last World Cup was perfect. In a way, after winning it last year, is it now even more of a challenge to go on and win it again in a couple of years' time? To almost in a way to retain it, could that even be more difficult for you and the team?
I would rather be in that position than not winning and having to fight to find a winning formula. I think winning last year has given our guys a huge amount of confidence in the process, strategy and planning by which we went through over a 4-year period. So it allows us to go into every World Cup with that strategy and forward thinking, and you know that contributing along the way the whole time and trying to continually get better. Seeing the finished product last year was obviously an eye-opener for everybody that hadn't won a World Cup to date. But also, it creates a level of expectation everywhere we go. And that's one that sits well with some of our guys, but for a lot of our guys, they haven't experienced that. So it's important to recognise what's expected of us moving forward, because we want to win more trophies.
And for you, was it an easy decision or a tough one after the World Cup last year to stay on as captain and take this team forward?
I think initially it was a tough one. I only had 10 days off after the World Cup final and then went back to play with Middlesex and sort of trudged my way through the rest of the T20 Blast campaign with a sore, stiff, heavily medicated back. So the first question is, can I be physically fit enough to continue on? And also have a look at my captaincy and my contributions as a batsman throughout the team. So having taken time after the Blast finished, it actually became clearer what the next couple of years looked like after I could answer the questions about my back.
Thank you, Eoin. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Tim, please.
Hi, Owen. Sorry, I got muted there. Do you think not having a crowd, could that be kind of weirder in one-day cricket than in Test cricket? Because obviously you have a lot more noise from the crowd normally in one-dayers.
Yeah, having spoken to some of the Test guys about their experience, which is obviously very different, but there are moments in Test cricket where, you know, then the first Test match, the last day, when we're trying to bowl them out and Jofra bowled a quick spell, you know, normally you'd have the Barmy Army going mad and spurring everybody on. It's just part and parcel of home advantage or just playing in a really tight game. So I think there will be different challenges throughout. I think fielding will be one of them. Not gearing yourself up, but maintaining that standard of, yes, you were playing in an international game and there is a level of expectation on everybody and a standard that we need to upkeep. I think that will be one of the huge challenges in keeping the intensity.
And if you sort of think about the players in this squad, is the depth in English white ball cricket more than it's ever been during your time as a player?
Definitely. I think, you know, being able to see more and more of the Lions players or the guys outside of the Lions over the last couple of weeks has been exceptional, because there's such a big pool of players that are unbelievably talented. Yes, we don't know if they will succeed in international cricket, but you would be comfortable selecting them in a squad if you needed them at any stage. So I think it is.
And are you looking for some of the guys to almost play the roles of certain players who aren't in your squad, who are in your team, you know, last year?
Yeah, I think everybody that's been selected plays that role within themselves. So there is a very small amount of framework by the way we operate in our batting, and a lot of it is actually just trying to apply pressure on the opposition the whole time. And all of our batters do that, regardless of the number that's beside where they bat. I think creating chances or opportunities with that ties into opportunities that might become available in our strongest team, I think is going to be important as well, because like I mentioned at the beginning, we have an abundance of top order batters, and possibly an area that we need to fill is in the lower and middle order, where we need sort of a bit more strength and depth.
Thanks, Tim. We'll go to Harriet now. Just conscious of time, about 10 minutes or so left, guys, okay? You need to unmute yourself.
Hi, Eoin. Basically, the Super League starts, with this series. There will be also bilateral series played during the course, till the 2023 World Cup. You think it's kind of bit complicated in terms of, people to understand which is a Super League match and which is a bilateral match? You think that could have been a bit sorted?
To be honest, I haven't looked far enough ahead to dissect it. I'd still like to play in a couple of series before I draw any conclusions. I just want to see the framework, not the framework, but how it looks, take both sides of it, speak to opposition captains, and hopefully form my own opinion and give honest judgment on it then.
Thanks, Harry. We'll go to John Etheridge.
Hi. I'm not sure how much of the Test series you got to see, but just wondered if you had a word for Stuart Broad, really. 500 wickets is a heck of a lot, isn't it?
It's incredible. We watched most of it yesterday, and sort of any sort of achievement that holds unbelievable weight and magnitude of that significance. We sort of sat back and discussed where it started, how we progressed, different guys that have played, and it's been unbelievable. And in many ways, Brodie and Jimmy are always paired together, but when you speak about them on their own, they're the greatest that's ever been. And that doesn't hold a lot of weight at the moment, but I'm sure it will hold a lot more weight when they finish playing, which is sad, but I think that's just the way everybody operates. I'm very lucky to have played Test cricket with him. I played in a game where he took a hat-trick at Trent Bridge, and it was unbelievable. But to show the longevity, the skill, and not only that, he's box office. He takes wickets in clusters, bags. It just means he's a nightmare to play against. So it's incredible what he's achieved.
Do you think that the fact that he and Jimmy actually played virtually no white ball cricket for the last 5 years has sort of prolonged their career and allowed them to maybe tinker and improve?
I think you'd have to speak to them because they know their bodies, they know how they feel. I know for me, it has definitely prolonged the way I see my career going, having sort of cut red ball cricket out of it and allow me to focus primarily on one thing going forward. It just means it's less clustered and you spend more time with your family, and cricket isn't as overwhelming as it potentially could be towards that end of your career.
There's no, the way they're bowling at the moment, both of them, there's no reason at all why they can't carry on for some time, yeah.
Yeah, I think both of them have spoken about the Ashes. And I suppose when you get to that stage, you always earmark things that you want to play on too, and hopefully they'll pass. But you don't know until you come up against your biggest test. And everybody who plays Test cricket is obviously, English cricket is I suppose, judged on Ashes series performances. And I think those guys being who they are, it wouldn't surprise me if they wanted to continue on past that.
Thanks, John. Alan Gardner now. Sayak, I'm going to assume that you've got what you need from Owen's answer about Stuart Broad there, but let me know if not. And then, yes, Hugh, Terbill, there is time. So Alan Gardner now, then Hugh, and Sayak, let me know if you still need the question. Thanks.
Hey, Owen. You mentioned looking at kind of options for that lower middle order. Do you expect to sort of go in with, I think Joe Denley and Tom Banton played at 5 and 6 in your last ODI. Is that kind of how you imagine you might line up?
I think very similar. I thought Joe in particular in South Africa played brilliantly. It's obviously a long time ago, but he's still a high quality player. So again, creating opportunity for that player is important for us.
And I mean, with Joe, he'll obviously be sort of 37 by the next World Cup comes around. But do you see it as he's kind of the man in possession, and it's up to other younger players to fight their way past him if and when they start playing, domestic cricket again and being able to put those performances in?
Yeah, with Joe in particular, age is not something that we talk about. He's as agile and as fit as anybody. So it's just his hunger and desire to play and succeed. And I think the opportunities that both of those guys might get will determine how long it goes or what direction we go in.
And just finally on the context of the Super League, as you came up through the Irish system and then moved across and looking for opportunity really. What does this mean for Irish cricket being kind of given that pathway to the World Cup, and how important is it that they kind of grasp it, manage a few upsets, and I guess they'll be looking to pull one off tomorrow against the world champions. So how much will they be up for it, do you think?
Oh, they'll be very, very much up for it. I think given the limited fixtures that they have, having had two sides pull out of tours, they'll be looking to cause an upset definitely and win the series, obviously. But I think the most important thing for Irish cricket is actually playing as many fixtures as they can, because naturally I think sides will get better if they have the a group of young talented players. You need to have them playing cricket. You can't just have them sitting on the sideline. So I also said the same thing when they gained Test match status. So that's great status, but what fixtures are they going to play and how many? And it's great that they're getting more and more, as is other countries as well. But I think you can always give more.
Great, thank you.
Thanks very much, Alan. Last question, Hugh Tuberville.
Hi, it was a similar question actually, really, to the middle and lower order batsmen that you were talking about. But just looking at James Vince and Sam Billings particularly, some people might think, Vince had his chance in the World Cup, played 3 matches, didn't do that well, and Billings has had some goes, hasn't he? He's an exceptional talent. It's not too late for these guys, in your opinion?
No, absolutely not. I think that's an unfair judgment on James to start with, because the guy who either had the opportunities in the lead into the World Cup or as the spare batsman in the lead into the World Cup tested positive and was ruled out, tested positive in a drugs test and was ruled out. So those opportunities might have fallen into James Vince's hands and he would have been better positioned going into the World Cup. And it doesn't mean to say it would have been James Vince, it could have been anybody. It was just a spare batter role who you wanted to play games, have some success. So if the opportunity arises during a World Cup, they're better positioned to perform. Like I mentioned earlier, James has been on a lot of tours with us, but hasn't necessarily had the opportunity. When you speak about Sam's a guy who performs day in, day out for Kent and has been waiting on more opportunities. I think he's averaged 50 over the last 2 or 3 years and fulfilled a role that we see an important one. So hopefully we can give him opportunity as well.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.